the Thursday, October 9th, 2025 meeting of the St. Louis County Land Bank Board. Ms. Wilson, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Trimble,
Here.
Ms. Horn,
Here.
Mr. Glantz,
Present.
Mr. Shagag,
Present.
Ms. Grant,
Present.
Ms. Dancy,
Here.
Ms. Jordan.
Here.
Mr. Chair, you have a quorum.
All right, thank you, Ms. Wilson. So moving on to our second item, which is the meeting summaries for the meeting which occurred on September 25th, 2025. I would entertain a motion to accept the minutes. Is there a second? Is there any discussion or changes that needed to be made to the minutes? If everyone feels good, I'll call a vote. All those in favor of accepting the minutes of September 25th, 2025, please say aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
The ayes have it. So moving on to our next agenda items, which is new business, which is executive director hiring. I put this on the agenda for us today, not as necessarily the decision item, but to start opening up that conversation to keep moving forward on a work plan to get to an executive director. I am interested in hearing from board members about, are there any members who would like to form a committee to start drafting draft documents, including job description, perhaps chatting with, one option we may want to do is chat with SLEDC about, or SLEDP, excuse me, about contracting for administrative and other services, chatting with the county similarly about whether we can contract with them to ensure that this person can get there, that we can make sure that this individual has benefits and administrative support that we're going to need. But I think that there's a couple different pathways that we can go down as we start this search, and I want to get it kicked off. So I just want to hear from you all. Is there anybody that is a work product or sort of a committee that's of interest to you? And if so, which of us would like to start going down that pathway?
I'll support. Wouldn't want to lead.
Okay.
But if I'm the only one, I guess I would have a choice.
You will not be the only one. Because I would like to be on that committee with, and I'd like it, I think probably a committee of 3 is probably a good number. So the committee would then report back to us in our board meetings every other week, showing the draft, talking about the conversations that the committee is having with any sort of entities as to start putting this stuff together. So I would like to be on it. Farrakhan would like to be on it. Is there anybody else that this is something that you would like to be a part of? And I guess, first of all, I want to make sure everyone's good with this plan, having a committee put this stuff together. And then ultimately all of us voting on it.
Jacob, I thought we had a draft of a job description from.
I think we do. I think there's some stuff out there that's going to be a good base for us to start from. And then I think that it would be good for us, have a committee of us, look that over if there's any refinement to that, and then bring it to the full board to with the committee's thoughts put into it.
I had talked to Rachel Waterman about this before, and it looks like there's some really, really good people out there that are very experienced land banks on a national basis. So we may want to check with her if she knows of anybody who might be willing to relocate, because I don't think we're going to find anybody in the region that knows anything more about it than it would be learning about it from ground zero. And if we could steal somebody away who's experienced and has helped set one up in some other part of the country, that would be, as far as I'm concerned, would be a good thing. So we might want to look at that option.
I think you are right. And Because I do hope that I do expect this to be a national search because I think that this is going to be a really attractive opportunity. But Member Shagat, you wanted to say something.
Yeah, I was just gonna add, we probably should be specific in defining the committee. Because I think I heard from you was specifically a job description, but then what I'm hearing from Joan, which makes sense, I think that's part of the hiring process.
Yes,
So I think the description of the committee that's being formed, the task that we're doing, it probably need to be clearly defined. Those two things plus whatever anybody else might add to it.
I like that, a committee charter or a sort of a committee description describing what our outcomes need to be.
I was thinking a conversation we had about access to the bank accounts and all of those things that the executive director needs or we need them to have. So I don't know where that fits in to this conversation, but that's something that we need to decide sooner or later we'll talk about this later as we think about the bank account, who's going to have access, what level, what are the controls for the executive.
Okay. That's really helpful.
Can you all hear me?
We can hear you. Member
Okay.
Grant.
Okay, I was thinking along the same lines. For me, it feels like we're putting the cart before the horse a little bit because we haven't even adopted bylaws, and I know it's coming up. But I would just like to say, like we've already said, adopting the bylaws for one, but then getting to a place where we kind of have big picture, like where are we going, what is going to be our expectations as we move forward. And I think when we get into the work plan and actually setting dates of where we're headed, it'll help us as we get down the line, especially talking about the executive director, the budget, hiring, what all of that looks like.
I agree 100%. I think it's a really important role, but we have to have our house in order.
Right.
How does an executive director function if we don't have our house in order yet? And I'm not saying that we won't. It just feels a little out of order.
I guess I thought that the purpose was there would be a committee that would start getting the plan together.
That's correct.
Not that we would be embarking on a search at this moment.
No.
But just sort of getting that part of the house sort of prepared. Because I don't think that the bylaws, the bank account, those sorts of things, two separate things. And so I don't know, I guess my thought is those things can happen at the same.
Simultaneously.
Yeah, simultaneous.
And that's kind of, and just so to be really, that's kind of what I was thinking too, because the hiring process, I'm not thinking that we're going to be ready to put anything out for months, the period. So to me, what I was thinking was that this is us starting to get the pieces pulled together about what we need to have when it's time to do that, so that we make really informed decisions, so that by the time we're ready to put this out, we've actually answered some of these questions. So that is some of the intent for me, which goes back to Member Shagag's comment about the charter of this committee, making sure that this board is comfortable with what the committee is doing, because I think that some of the things that the committee would be doing is addressing, these are the things that we pulled together to make sure that we do have a successful search, and that individual is coming to the board at the right time when we're ready for them to start to get underway. So because I do look at this is for us a long-term project to get this started.
You were out, I think it was in the last meeting, I suggested that we have a planning session, a longer meeting in which we can, so maybe this is, we do need a committee at some point, maybe over the next few months, we're fact finding, the same thing we're doing with the banking. Everyone, could think about the things that we want the executive director to do, what work has to be tied to them. Maybe start compiling that list And then once we have a list of things that we need to get done before we even get to the hiring process and all those things, then we can start talking about the committee and gathering the committee members, and they'll have a list of things that they can go through.
Right.
Just do some, and I feel like we need a bit more investigation as well in terms of what other organizations are doing, what are their executive directors
Right.
doing.
I concur with
Before
that.
we get to a point where three people are gathering to build something. I don't know if we have the information yet to build.
No, and I appreciate that perspective. So then what I'm wondering is that would it still be, I would put out that it's still worthwhile for us to get a committee together to start that exploration.
Yeah.
So instead of, just assigning one-offs, that we have a team of us that are dedicated to start this exploration. So maybe for the next meeting, by the next meeting, this is what I would propose, is that we put this committee together. By the next meeting, it has a charter of the kinds of things it wants to start investigating. So then we come back together and we say, yeah, that sounds good. Now get started. So that we all have a common agreement on what these folks are going to be doing and laying out for us. Does that sound like how does that sound to folks?
Well, I have a suggestion.
Please.
What if we work into the initial work plan? Because I feel like we are so new that it's not even that many of us. Our time is limited to then break off. I feel if we are strategic with these board meetings, our board meetings can be working board meetings. So if today we can adopt the bylaws and we can start actually moving and accomplishing things each board meeting, I think that we would be surprised how much we can do together if we create a strategic work plan of, if that's a priority for you, Jacob, then we can make sure that that's on the agenda for the next time, and we can actually have a working board meeting together and plan to accomplish those things and knock them off of our list.
So I do want to say is that when we get to, for the good of the order, this is something that we have on the discussion, is to talk about retreat and meeting logistics for future meetings. So I do want to note that is something for us to be chatting about on another item here on the agenda. Because I don't disagree with you, Member Grant, that the board, we're at a place where, we want to be making sure that every board meeting is that we are making decisions and pushing this ball down the field.
Right. So let's get to work. Look.
So I do continue to, because I agree with you, and I continue to find that having a smaller committee to bring the big pieces to us on some of this stuff is still helpful. Because it's not, I don't intend for it to be, this is just a show and tell. I mean, it is that committee is doing the legwork for the seven of us on some of these decisions. So that is what I recommend, but I want to make sure that this board is comfortable with that. And I want to make sure that the recommendation or the thoughts of Member Grant are also, that I want to make sure that those are, heard, and that I concur with Member Grant. That I want to keep us moving forward.
I agree. I think that setting up a committee right now would be helpful.
Okay.
Even though we know that the charge of the committee will evolve.
Yeah.
But, I guess my thought would be that they would be part of the work plan.
Yes.
They would develop a work plan that is on procuring an executive director.
That's correct. I
think
concur.
that it is, and I think it's going to be a long process.
I think it will too.
I think that assembling a committee now, would be good.
I think that a committee charter should include inside of it the expectation that the committee shows a work plan. What is it that you intend to do? What's the time frame over which you intend to bring back to the board all of this information that you are discovering for consideration at our bi-weekly meetings. So that it is a core group of us that kind of are dedicated to getting this stuff and sort of discovering this stuff for us as a team.
Yep, count me in.
So with that, is there a third member who would like to join the committee to be putting this stuff together?
I would love to be involved, but I don't know if my schedule at this point is going to be able to allow that. So that's kind of too why, just separating it just creates more meeting dates,
No, I
But I
understand.
do, I understand what you all are saying. I don't know if I necessarily agree, but.
You're not.
And I
proposing-
appreciate, I want to say is I really appreciate the perspective that you bring, Member Grant, because we need that.
But you're also not proposing that this committee is meeting immediately.
No, I mean, what I would propose is that hopefully by the next meeting, we have a charter, like that the committee meets together and say, these are the things we want to start doing. This is the charter that we're proposing to the board. The board says, yes, start finding this stuff out for us. And then the committee will determine hopefully the three members will then decide, I'm going to do this, you're going to do that. And then either the committee can do virtual meetings, that they don't have to be in person.
Yeah, and I think it's important to note that everything that Jacob is mentioned is he's envisioning it. It's not like, I don't think you're saying that's what we're three are going to decide. So, and I also think that, if we do that before the next meeting, then that may change when we present the information and somebody else, third or fourth person may come back and say, oh yeah, okay, I understand now because there's clarity to the committee.
Right.
And I think that may help. But would it be a problem if those that did agree still go forward? Or are you saying that we gotta have the three?
We don't have to have three members on the committee. I would recommend that there be at least three of us because I want to make sure that it's that there's enough of us from the board that we're spreading out the work. So it's not just, in this case, you and I just kind of, doing it, but that there's another person to spread it out a little bit with. And also that I feel like on a board of 7, having a committee of 3 is a good sort of representation of the membership, better than just 2 or 1.
At this point, is there a motion on the floor so then we can vote and then we can move forward?
No, in fact, I would entertain a motion to establish a committee on the executive director hiring and investigation process. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
There's been a first and a second. We can have continued discussion before we vote if there's any other discussion on it.
My only discussion comment would be, I like the idea of executive director investigation. For some reason or another, the word hiring seems very premature to me.
Forgive, that is just a word I put, to be honest, that's just what I put on the agenda, so.
Yeah.
I think as a board, we understand where we're.
And I don't mean to get bogged down in semantics. I'm happy to be on that, to help on the subcommittee. I have a number of travel plans and whatnot coming up in the near future too. So, that's why I didn't jump in, because I don't want my absence to affect that process.
So we have a possibility of member Grant, possibility of member Glantz. Is there anybody I'm going to have to take silence from, because I know that we've got Member Jordan and Member Dancy have been working diligently on the banking side. So they've been doing a significant amount of legwork for us. So I don't want to ask the same members to be putting too much onto themselves. And I want to make sure there's a good blend of us working.
We could create a committee and staff it as, time goes on.
That's true.
Could I call the question, please?
So there has been, with the question being called by Member Horn, the motion on the table is to create a committee to investigate the executive director role and hiring process. All those who are in favor of creating that committee, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Are there any who are opposed?
I'm opposed.
Let the record show that there is 1 in opposition and 6 in favor. Thank you, Member Grant, and thank you, everybody. So we have created the committee. We have 2 members that are a part of it, and we're wanting to put this third person. Member Horn, is this something that is of interest to you in any way?
I have some back issues right now. That's why I'm not stepping up. I don't know. I'm like Member Glantz. I'm not sure, of some availability from time to time. So otherwise, I'd love to do it, but
Understood.
maybe.
There are some times, I understand. There's just times in life when it's not going to work out.
Jacob,
So-
you can still keep me posted on you all's meeting dates. I just know my schedule is really tight. So it just
Understood.
depends on when you all meet.
Maybe
Okay.
you could work around Member Glance's travel plans. He's- he would be
So
wonderful
with
at
that, Member Glantz, are you willing to round out this committee?
I am, I'm looking at my calendar. I leave town on the 21st, and will not be back until, the 6th of November.
And that will be okay because the committee will be able to make its own schedule.
Then I'm happy to assist in that effort.
Okay. So the committee is made up of Farrakhan Shagag, Jacob Trimble, and Barry Glantz. And Member Grant, we will keep you well informed. We will keep all members of the board well informed of that. And the next item coming out of that committee will be to create a charter for the entire board to look at, review, and make sure that that committee is performing the will of this board. So thank you, everybody, for that conversation. So moving on in our agenda to our old business items. So board organization and initial work plan drafting. We have 2 items that we have been working on in previous meetings. We have been working on banking and the adoption of the bylaws. And I would actually like to put these into, I'd like to actually take the banking, because I think that that's going to be more of an update first. So can we get the banking update and then we will move into the bylaws discussion.
So I'll start and say I did have a meeting with Commerce Bank, who's interested. Of course, they have a lot of questions that we have not gotten answers. So maybe I'll also preface this by saying, I believe we need to slow down a bit in terms of, I know we wanted a bank account by the end of the year, but the level of information that they're looking for, we're still needing bylaws. We still need a tax ID number. We still need official documents that say that we are officially an organization. Those are things that banks are going to require regardless of who we go with. They want to see, at least Commerce wants to see, and I have some questions here that I'll just throw out. We don't have to answer them today, but they have come back with some questions about, for example, where the $1 million is. The $1 million is sitting at the county right now. What's its origin? Can we give them a breakdown of what we expect funding to look like and what is its origin, because those are questions by law that many of them will have to ask.
Okay.
And also around whether or not dollars need to be collateralized, because most quasi government entities require that. But the question is, do we need that? And I don't think we have that answer, right? So we still have some investigation that we do before we can get to a point to say, here are 3 banks, or let's decide of the 3 banks we want to work with. Lastly, I'll say that in terms of the fees that they may charge us will depend on where we sit. So $1 million account to start, we don't expect anything else, a large dollar amounts. Maybe we don't go over $5 million for the first year and a half. We could sit in a small business account and not have any fees. However, if we open the account 6 months later, we're up to $10, $15 million, then at some point they're going to need to move us to commercial banking, which then will require some type of fee, additional controls and security. That goes back to about the access that the executive director and the board will have, and all of those things also need to be in an operational document so that the bank will know who has the authority to call, not just signers on an account, or who has the authority to call and say, we need another product, or we don't want to pay for this, or negotiation. Like, all of that still needs to be established before we can even open an account.
Okay.
I know that we, in a previous meeting, we talked about maybe the rush to get an account because we wanted to spend some dollars. I think we need to be clear about what we need the money for today, if we do. And if we don't, I would propose that we slow down a bit, again, get all of these details in order. That way we'll be more prepared to have a deeper conversation with the bank partners regarding what this money is for, because that was probably the most of the conversation was, if it's $25 million, where is it from? Are we expecting more than that? What's the risk to the bank around those dollars? Who has access and who's responsible for keeping it safe? Is the biggest thing. And again, that's not, I suspect there's going to be just about any bank. That's more of a governmental requirement in terms of being clear about where the dollars are coming from, that we're not laundering money, that we know who we're doing business with, because we're going to have to establish that too. If we're buying and selling properties, right, we have to have a process to verify who we're getting or who we're selling properties to, just so the bank will feel comfortable that we're also not allowing our partners to launder money through these transactions. So that's my update for today. I have another bank on the schedule to have a brief conversation, but I suspect they're going to
have similar concerns. So is it possible to put together a list of some of the things that we're going to need? Because there are some of these things, they live in ordinance. Some of these can be provided by St. Louis by either publicly available documents. This is the ordinance. This is, the monies that the seed money currently is NFL settlement funds. It comes directly from St. Louis County's treasury as part of it's been appropriated. We have the ordinance, everything for us to take that. The first, and this is where, maybe having some more discussion or understanding of and this is actually something that's on for the good of the order, but I think what you're discussing also brings it up here, which is that the 5% penalty is started to be collected on tax bills now. So St. Louis County is now collecting these monies, and it is being held in the St. Louis County Treasury. So it's all being accounted for in the Department of Revenue. I've spoken with the Director of Revenue, and I have, some things I wanted to share, just some minor things I want to share with the board when we get to that item. But I feel like for a while, the monies that are going to be coming into our bank account are really first going to be almost exclusively from the Treasury of St. Louis County. It's going to be, I think, probably a little while before we start engaging in
and they're aware of that it'll be probably a year from now before we start doing transactions. But it is something that they have to have awareness of expectations. And who are we doing business with? And that they'll have the document there.
And so I experienced a lot of the same conversations when Christina and I talked about this earlier this week, and it was like, you're in my head, you were in that conversation because we're getting the same conversation, same questions from the bank. I do think that in addition to all of that, we need to build and develop and establish some financial procedures so that we know what we want, so they can know how to price what they're offering is to us, in addition to having all of the things that check the box from the regulatory perspective. I think talking to Treasury is helpful because when you have public funds, there's a certain way it has to be treated. But my question is if we know it's public funds when it's sent to the county and it's in the county treasury, when it leaves the county treasury and it comes to us, are they still public funds? And I think that is a driver of their product offerings, is whether or not the money is still considered public funds. So I think those are some of the questions we have. And to the point that you made, what I have been in my discussions with banks, it would be helpful if we give them a fact sheet that basically says, and we know that our needs will change over time. I think that we know that that's going to be the case, but, rushing in and accepting, without having a lot more information of what we anticipate and a timeline, I think is what the problem we're running into. And, banks don't want to give us a proposal and they don't know the whole story, both to their benefit and their detriment.
Yeah.
Sure.
I have a thought. As we're talking about this, do we have access to a St. Louis County organization management system? Because as we're building all of this, where will we house this? Once we adopt the bylaws, what system is in place that will keep us organized as we move forward? Because even having conversations with banks and they're requesting this information, we also have to think about what system will we use.
The right now, the answer from St. Louis County is that we are an independent body and that they are happy to give us the $1 million, but ultimately we are not St. Louis County. So St. Louis County government does not, anything that we would do with St. Louis County government would require negotiation and contracting for them to support us ultimately in any way at this point, which is, I think, one of the difficulties of this. It's like you start unraveling this onion and you start saying, oh man, there's all these things that's standing something like this up.
So Jacob, do you
Yes,
know-
we are, because and forgive me just one moment, because we're gonna have to have an annual audit under it's either statute or ordinance that
It's
requires
both. I
that.
think it's both, and
So-
it's April
Yeah,
that has to be done. So that's something that there won't be much.
there won't be any, well, at this point, really
Right,
anything.
But it does not
Stop, right,
stop our
requirement to do so.
I'm sorry, I introduced something that wasn't part of the thing, but I
It's
think it all
something to-
fits into the financial and the banking
That's right.
part of it.
And Member Grant, you wanted to say something.
I was gonna ask, where are the bylaws currently? Like, where are they being stored? And the meeting agendas and all of that?
So what I am doing is I am keeping a separate record for all of these things myself, so that when we have so if there was any public requests, I can provide them, but ultimately all of those documents will need to be transferred to the board, organization, whatever we want to do. Right now, they're being held, all records are right now being held within, essentially, I'm keeping a file of all of our minutes, all of our agendas. Every email that is being sent is captured, so I can download every email that has that we're sending that is including myself. All of those will be able to be transferred to the Land Bank Board, to the organization when it has the capacity to do so. These videos can be transferred because we're hosting these videos. If you look online, our meetings are on the St. Louis County Planning YouTube page, but those videos will then be able to be transferred to our organization whenever we have our own online presence. Because we will need an online presence at some point.
Right, I don't mind, and I don't know how you all feel, but I'm just thinking about making this process a little easier from the beginning. So I don't know if it's even legal or if it's not secure enough to use Google Drives, but just somewhere where we can start to house all of the things that we'll start to develop. So then because even talking about what the banks are requiring, like I don't mind putting a document together with a list of requirements that we need to start checking off of what they're asking us, because right now we're having a conversation, but it's not on paper. And how do we start to move the needle forward?
No, about how to share, about having a common shared system for how we submit information to each other is well taken. Google Drive is the Google suite of products is one option that we could investigate to take a look at. I actually have that written down. Is there anybody who would actually like to take a look at that and have a recommendation?
You're asking a recommendation to take a look at what? Can you repeat your statement, please?
Whether there's anybody who'd like to take a look at it, like if we did a Google suite of products, like a shared Google Drive where these things live, what would somebody like to take a dive into that and say, this is what I'm proposing. This is, I think we should, store things here. Because you're right now it is, I am storing them locally here at the county. And we do not have a shared drive where everyone has access to these other than being shared via email. So it's a point well taken.
I can do it. And do you all want me to present it to you all? Because I use it all the time and I love it.
I think that'd be great if then that would be an item on the agenda for the next meeting, if it can be, or it could be the November meeting, whichever you feel is what, with your work schedule, to make that decision for us.
I can email it too. It doesn't have to be at the next meeting. I can email the information to where then we can vote the next meeting.
I think that'd be great. So you can send, what you'll do is you'll send it to Mel. Mel will send it out with the packet so everyone can look at it, and then we'll discuss it.
Okay, perfect.
May I add something to this conversation? It brings up a thought that we need a document, and we don't have to call it this, but a document storage and access policy.
Which is, yeah.
So not just the tool, because I think that's what Ivy's referring to, but I think we need an actual written policy. Because the documents that you're storing at the county right now are not accessible to the public if they request it.
If you submitted a Freedom of Information Act, I would just send you everything that we have.
So I'm thinking of our policy would just outline, how we get information to the public if it's asked, or what information is accessible, whatever tool we decide to use, even when we get to a website part, right? What are we going to list on the website? I just think we need a policy, just noting that we need a policy around how accessible documents are and who has access to those documents.
And one thing I also want, because I failed to mention too, is that our agendas and our minutes are actually also posted on the county's website. So anybody can access our agendas and our minutes on St. Louis County's Courts Commission's website. So that is where it currently lives. So, and the county is happy for us to continue using that until such time that we have stood that up. So I hear, because I don't just like, it gets down to like, when we're a really mature board, these are all the things we absolutely have to have.
Yeah.
Like we absolutely will have to have these things. I'm wondering whether that can be something that is put on a to-do, like on our long to-do list
Well, where I'm going with this, I'm thinking, we can start with Google, but is Google the best?
I don't think it will ultimately be, when the board is more mature, that will be, but it could be, because Google does have like a business enterprise side of it. They have a business suite to the Google, they basically are the competitor to the Microsoft.
But
to the
I guess my
Microsoft Office.
question is, and again, I think this is the investigation part, and then I know someone at SLDC or LRA that I can ask what tool they're using, because is Google the best option for our entity? Right? Great for nonprofits. It's, right. How safe is it? Those things are things that I think we need to consider based on not everything is public unless they request it, correct?
Well, I mean, I don't, without seeing the statute in front of me, but it's it exists as public. I mean, it's just
Yeah.
public.
Yeah.
The idea being that, I mean, you may have to ask somebody to get it for you, but they are public by their very nature.
I also, just thinking about all the other things the executive director will need. If Google is the option we might go with, then we have to invest in another tool, right? But if we can know what our peers are doing, what tool they're using, maybe it's a combination of things that we can just immediately invest in that versus starting with Google and moving on to something else. It's just a thought that I think we need to investigate a variety of options.
So I think that as we mature
Mhm.
and as our needs change, we will, at some point, I envision the executive director sending out a request for proposal
Yeah.
for different vendors to tell us what they can do for us, basically on our website and access to public things. I don't think we're there at this point. And so if we're just talking about something, a repository for all of us to share and to easily, and to easily grab things if they're subject to, if somebody's requesting the
Yeah.
information. Because it is all public. I mean, most of the vast majority of our dealings are going to be public.
Yes.
There's just a couple of exceptions. The question is, do you make it so that the people can just go get it themselves, or do you have them request it?
Yeah.
And I think right now we are at the,
We're
Yeah.
in infancy. You're gonna have to request it. Yes, I think this is where my own thought process too is that I sometimes I'm jumping ahead to, I'm thinking about a mature board rather than a board where we are. Because I agree with you, Member Dancy. I think that, but I also, at this point, I concur with you, Member Jordan, which is that we just need something for us right now, for our own internal ease.
so I think the Google Drive from Member Grant idea is probably, that's sufficient for right now,
Mhm.
so that we all know what everything is.
I concur.
Because I know that for me and Vice Chair Dancy, we came in later, so there's probably, weeks of things, of materials that we don't have in our own personal
Mhm.
emails.
Yeah.
But you all may have. So
Yes.
if there's a repository that has all of our proceedings and
Mhm.
documents, I think that would be helpful. And so I think for that point, I think what Member Grant is proposing is,
I just want to throw this out. Do we have to have an account in order to pay for Google?
No, it's.
Well,
free.
right now, we
That's-
don't have any way to
That's
pay for
another thing.
anything.
So we
Right.
could not request dollars from the county to pay. Okay, I just wanted to say that out loud to make sure that we're still ahead of ourselves in terms of.
We'd have to use a free version at this point, or one of us would pay for it, hold on to that receipt until such point. But even then, no, I guess there'd be no tax on that because we will be a tax exempt agency.
so I think probably a free version is,
It's sufficient
And-
for the moment.
and honestly, I could volunteer a document site to keep things on
Yeah.
that we would not have to pay for.
Mhm.
It's so secure, it's hard to get into. But like the people I want to give access to, they're like, so, but it is very secure and there would be no charge.
Yeah.
So,
Just create a Gmail account.
Exactly.
Although at this point, everything is public, we're not yet dealing with those items that are sensitive.
Yeah.
So, I mean, anyone could ask, even our work product. So even as the team puts stuff together, our work product is,
Yeah.
Anyone could ask for it.
Mhm.
So, you know, I think that, Member Grant's concept of a Google Drive is, I think, probably good for now.
Yeah.
Until we start getting into, if we do get into, personnel issues at some point, months and months and months down the line, those things are protected. So we will not want to just put those kinds of things on but though that can be a problem for,
Director.
and that can be the problem for tomorrow.
I'm just bringing it into the
Yeah.
room, that's all.
And I appreciate it.
Are we able to then just make a vote now? Because I know, Karen, you said you'll volunteer too, but I don't mind either helping, starting to organize it in a way that we can just start dropping things into it as we move forward.
So I actually, I think that the Google Drive is fine.
Will
I
you
don't,
offer something else?
yeah, I mean, if people wanted something that was more secure, but I also don't think that, I think that the site access to being able to put stuff in should be under the secretary's purview. I don't think that we should be adding stuff that we may, that, you know, I don't know. I guess I'm just thinking how you manage
No,
that.
and typically it is a that would be, right, we do not, right now, the role as our temporary administrative officer
Yes.
is operating as our secretary.
Yeah.
So we do not, because we do not have a secretary, a named secretary for the board.
So I don't think everybody should have rights to put stuff in there at this point. Because I'm just concerned that you may put something in that's not something that should be put in, even though I know that we probably don't really have anything like that right now.
Right,
But we could down the line. And so I guess I would just be cautious as to having a site that everybody can contribute to, but I could be being overly cautious at this moment.
Yeah, I would think you would want one administrative officer. I would think it would be more for an open records inquiry or a sunshine request rather than, I don't think everybody should have access to putting stuff in there. I think it should be just one person.
And I may have missed it. Karen, did you suggest something else? Like a different
No,
system?
I said if we were worried about security,
Yeah.
then, you know, I have a secure site at work that we,
Okay.
you know, that we often use for, you know, for outside people to be able to, you know, add stuff in, download things, that sort of thing.
Oh,
So that if we didn't want to use something like Google Drive, but I think that right now Google Drive is perfectly fine.
what if, because the conversation I think we're kind of having a little bit of a spin here. So why don't, Member Grant, if it's okay with you, what if you and I chat about this and then come up with a recommendation, and then you and I and you, why don't we look at a couple things, some of these concerns that we've heard, and then make that and discuss with the board next time, say this is what, to address the concerns that we had, this is our proposal, and this is how we move, this is how we think we should be using this. Does that work for you?
yeah, absolutely. I don't.
So why don't you and I connect? I'll connect with you sometime today or tomorrow, and we can chat about that.
Okay, sounds good.
Is the board good with that?
Yeah.
So is there anything else about the banking discussion?
I would just like to make the comment that we're talking about and a lot of money. I would think these banks would be wanting our business instead of setting up all these hurdles. I mean, once they're assured that it's legitimate business, and my goodness, it's coming from St. Louis County. So I'm just kind of surprised that they're not anxiously soliciting our business, and this is a lot of money.
They are,
They
Joe.
are.
They want it, right? But Joe, you also have to remember, we're a new organization. We are literally forming an entity that it's not like it's not the city. We have this existing policies and all of these things. And so they have a lot of questions, again, not because the bank is wondering. They have to report a lot of what we're talking about to the government.
Yeah.
When we're making deposits, $25 million is a lot of money, to just take in and then not have any.
Knowledge of where it's coming.
Right, and if someone asks, where the dollars from, who's protecting it, who has control over it? Can any of us go into a branch and take all the money out because we're signers? Should we all be signers? Like there are
I don't-
an additional level of protection and understanding that all banks are going to need before they say yes to this. And then they also want to know whether or not they're going to make money off of this
Sure.
money as well.
So I've received multiple follow-ups.
Yeah.
They wanted to make
Like, what do you
sure
do?
that I didn't forget.
Right. So they want it.
Because they just want the information. And so when I said, okay, we'll put together some information, send it to you so you have something to gauge your proposal. I've had at least 2 banks say, you said you were going to do this. Do you have it yet? So, no, they want it. But there are things that instead of having to keep coming back and asking us questions, they want something that looks like a solicitation or, a fact sheet or something that says, here's what we're looking
Here's
for.
what we know.
If you're putting together like that one pager that you described, is there anything that I, in my role at St. Louis County, can pull for you? Are there ordinances, are there things that I can pull?
Can I get the certified ordinance?
A certified, yes,
Yeah,
that,
certified copy of the ordinance.
yes, I'm guessing. Mel, our administrative officer, our temporary administrative officer is, putting this in the minutes because therefore I can, being inside the county's organization, I can, if there's things that the county can provide, I can go to the right people to get those things.
The certified ordinance will function just like having a certified articles, a certified charter.
Mhm.
The first line of that ordinance is, it's here, hereby established this. It's a body politic and corporate. So that's our birth certificate.
Right.
So I just need a certified copy.
Okay.
Because when people ask for it, it's like, here's a certified copy, here's a certified copy.
Yes,
That's all.
okay. If you, yes, give me a list of anything that I can produce from St. Louis County and I will do so. If there are things that, if there's a memo or anything from our acting director of revenue that would be of help, let me know that. Whatever I can do to pull these documents together for us.
Okay, whether or not the dollars need to be collateralized or is probably the most pressing to verify whether that $1 million and anything beyond.
Okay.
And sort of the question is, are they still public funds once we receive them from the director of revenue?
I mean, I believe they are because it's public dollars going to the public and we are public.
Okay.
And we are a public entity. So, what would be so nice is if we had
Have a lawyer?
we had an attorney on staff. But right, that controls some of the control on how the bank wants to control the monies. Making sure that public dollars that they are a good steward and protector of the public dollars.
And have classifications of accounts. So when they're marketing their business,
Mhm,
they want to make sure they're marketing the correct account to us.
mhm.
So that's also, part of the.
Can you explain the collateral thing? I don't understand that.
So
Collateral for what?
collateralized in the, so we know that banks can only protect up to, it's still 250,000?
Not with that.
Yeah. Yes, for FDIC insured. And so kind of I'm sure this is an oversimplified description of it. If you have more than $250,000 in the account or less, more than what is protected, there are collateralization requirements for certain public entities. So you will have to find ways to protect if you have $1 million in the account, that's $750,000 that's at risk. So there are securities that get purchased and there's a list of approved securities and other ways that you can protect the money. So that's a big question because then the bank then has to put you into a different category if your deposits have to be collateralized.
Which also means we need an investment policy.
Yes.
Put that on the list.
Yeah, well, you were getting a list. Sure.
Mel, write that down, put that on the list. So, is it possible that by the next board meeting, we can have that one pager? By then I can, as long as we connect, I can pull together, documents. This collateralized question, man, we're gonna have to take a little bit of a look into that, because I can't tell you that I know the answer to that.
And I've answered that question for particular bodies,
Yeah,
but they're very different. You know, we're talking about a municipality
right.
that had it, and they definitely have to be collateralized. So needed to make sure that their collateralization agreement matched up with the statutory requirements and their investment policy
Yeah.
that they had. So I can take a look, but I don't know. I don't know if we are required to.
Okay.
I don't think so, but I'm not
So-
certain.
We
And-
need to do our due diligence.
Yeah, and the opposite of that is my partner at Commerce says that he thinks we probably do because it's coming from the county. At least that first $1 million. That if the county walked in with the same ask, they would already know. That it needs to be.
Well, the county, right, but we are separate, and just because where we got it from, just the county is, just because,
Well, I
That would
think
be my
that's
argument.
what we're trying to answer, like, we're getting these dollars, these public funds from the county. Does that mean that they always will be? And then they need to be protected
I
the
see.
same way they would be
Yeah.
if they were still at the county.
Because the county appropriates money to a lot of different.
that's right.
places.
So a
And
lot
it
of
doesn't- the money
Once the
changes
county lets-
character.
once it lets go.
So, but to your point, we are still a political subdivision,
Mhm.
so there may be, those requirements.
Thank you for explaining that. I think that makes a little bit clearer where the question lies, in that decision.
Essentially, when you're a public entity, you have to be an even better steward
That's right.
of money.
We
than
have
you
to be
would
we have to be the gold standard of making sure that the public purse is protected.
Yeah.
So, so if it's possible, let's get that one pager. I will produce as many documents as possible. This question of collateralization, I will start actually asking some folks here at the county whether, their experiences, the acting director of revenue, the treasurer. I may just start asking some questions, and start digging with you if that's okay.
Yeah, that's great.
So before we move on to the next discussion, is there anything else about banking that needs to be thrown out on the table? All right.
I want to thank the people that have worked so hard on doing this. This is, I really appreciate, and I appreciate the explanation for the collateralization. Thank you.
So moving on to the adoption of bylaws, an ongoing discussion that we've had for a couple of meetings now. I know that at the last meeting, there were some recommended or some questions that needed to be addressed. And so I wanted to open that conversation back up. I know that there were some additions that that Treasurer Jordan made to the bylaws. There were some questions that I know were discussed at the last meeting, but I'd like to just open up the conversation as people have looked at it over the last 2 weeks and see how people are, any sorts of concerns or where people are on this.
Can I make a sweeping recommendation on
Yes.
editing these? And I think it would do a lot to actually get us to approve these.
Yes.
Bylaws are a governing document.
Mhm.
They contain lots of governing language. Operationally, they don't contain, I think you keep your operations out of your bylaws, except to the extent that the operations are germane to the board or officers or governance in general. I would actually recommend that we strike Article 8, which is land bank acquisition and maintenance powers. Article 9, which is conveyance of property by the land bank. and Article 10, which is development of properties conveyed by the land bank. Not because those things are not important. They will be, they
Will
are.
be. Mhm.
They are very operational.
Yes.
And we, no matter what, we have to abide by the statute.
Yes.
So we don't have to say in here, we're abiding by the statute. I mean, there are lots of references to the statutory language in here. It's not, it's, whether it says it or not, we still have to comply and
Mhm.
abide by the statute. This here is a hurdle for us because we're not quite sure how we want to scope properties, acquire them, convey them. So it's not necessary to put these into the bylaws. I recommend we strike them and we develop procedures with respect to land acquisition. So
I appreciate you opening up with that, because I also had I think I had similar thought processes that I just hadn't quite put together yet, which is that I read through as I was reading through these, I thought, these are going to be either new adopted rules, new adopted policies, new adopted procedures at a time when we know how we want to acquire property, when we know what we want to be doing, and getting bogged down in sort of putting this into our bylaws doesn't feel necessary. Because I concur that the bylaws are about the operations of the board, and many of those decisions in those can be codified in subsequent documents when we are more prepared for those kinds of questions.
So are the bylaws as presently offered the same except for those two sections that have, I agree should be removed. I think Articles 8 and 9. So are we good with the rest of it?
I have a hard copy and I can't, on my phone, I can't see notes.
So, well, to that point, you can take it. To that point, I was going to suggest it was the center of,
For community progress?
yes. I don't know if you all had talked to them or heard from them before we came on, but I would want to hear their thoughts around the comments, around why they created it this way, just so to make sure we're all aware of what they were thinking.
Okay.
I agree about removing the procedural part, right? We need an operational document separate from this anyway. So I do agree with that, but all of the track changes, I would like to know more from Rachel, right?
Great. Ms. Waterman is from
Rachel was last week.
Yes, she's from Legal Services of Eastern Missouri.
Whoever had started the track changes, I would want to hear more from them, and kind of talk through this document. We did that as a group,
Mhm.
but I would like to hear from the originators of this.
The
document.
originators,
Yeah.
which is the Center for Community Progress, are the originators. And there's actually, for the good of the order, this actually leads to something that I also wanted to talk about, which is that we will be having, from my informal understanding, and we do have a public comment section. So to our audience, if I misspeak in any way, shape, or form, you please come forward during public comment and address that if I do. But the Missouri Foundation for Health, there has been a grant that has been awarded to multiple awardees, one of whom is the Center for Community Progress, to provide additional technical support and advice to new land banks within the state of Missouri. So I think that there will be starting not, in a couple of weeks, they may be more available to us to ask some of these questions.
So if the question,
Are you suggesting we put off the bylaws until further discussion with the center?
If that is the will of the board, I'm comfortable with that. If that is what the membership would like, I've read through, there are like some minor things. I concur with the big picture about Articles 8, 9, and 10. But I'm also, if it's the will of the board that we'd like to have a, invite someone from the Center for Community Progress to walk us through their thoughts on some of this, I'm happy that we keep this tabled on the agenda until such point that we can have a discussion with them. Now, we can also clean these up a little bit, if that would be, so that in preparation for that, if we'd like to just strike these and say, we'd like to strike these, and sort of do some cleanup, but.
And I'm also happy to explain the other changes I proposed. And maybe that, right now I can do that, maybe that, is helpful.
No, I think I would appreciate, yes, if you.
And in general, if there are open issues in the document, if we want to just clean those up now and figure out, what we need to, what's resolved. Maybe that's it. What's resolved instead of just an open question.
I think it's also fair for our partners at the Center for Community Progress to see what our track changes are.
Yeah.
So that we can have a discussion about what we're thinking versus what they're thinking. So
Yeah,
forward.
I don't see a need to rush and vote on this document. I think we should revise it. We should tidy it up. We clean it up. I think those suggestions are really good. I like the idea of having of the bylaws should be the bylaws, not an operational procedure document. And I'd love for our meetings to have an opportunity for educational training or a speaker or somebody to in the comment of whoever drafted this document, to get them at a future meeting so that we can better understand what their thinking was.
Mm-hmm. I think that we can, I think that's something that we can, that can be accomplished. I think we can absolutely accomplish that. Have somebody from the Center for Community Progress walk us through their thoughts. So what I would like is we need both the track changes version so that we see all the changes that we made from the document that we received, all the changes we've made, plus the clean version.
So now so I made changes actually in B also.
I'm trying to, hold on, I think I need to change it to, here we go. Here we go.
Okay. So here's what I did. Are there any changes in A? I don't think so. Okay, no changes in A. So the change I made in B is to say that covers regular and special board meetings. I struck out the minimum of 10 days and the public notice and the reference to the open meeting laws, because there is a separate section, I think it's D or E, one of the sections after that actually pertains to notice. So the only thing I left in B is that the requirement that we meet a minimum of 4 times a year.
Mm-hmm.
The other things are duplicative, and the more you say stuff, the more you have an opportunity to say things wrong and
differently.
inconsistent. Yes, so that's why I took that out of B. C is an emergency meetings clause. That is consistent with the Missouri Open Meetings and Records Law, that you can have an emergency meeting. So this gives us the less than 10 days notice if there's an emergency.
Mm-hmm.
And if absolutely necessary, it gives us the less than 24 hours notice, subject of course to the open meeting law. So, and it gives parameters for the declaration of an emergency meeting. I don't know how you all feel about that. It's chair, or in the chair's absence, the vice chair, or 3 directors could
call one.
Could call one.
Which I think is pretty standard. That if you can get, a large number of folks to need to call it.
And then D, meetings open to the public. Emergency meetings would be open to the public, but everything would be subject, except as otherwise provided in accordance to the open meeting law. So our annual, our regular, special, and emergency meetings would be open, except if we have a carve-out exception.
So go into closed session for like a personnel issue.
Yes.
Or.
So I think Member Horn asked about making sure that there were executive sessions allowed. And I think that that section D does permit us to have executive sessions that are, as long as they're done in accordance with the open meetings and records law.
Ms. Karen, may I ask, one thing, so for C,
Mhm.
the meeting is, I'm sorry, D, the new D. There you go. So the meetings are open to the public.
Mhm.
And that includes everyone. But the notices of the meetings, if you look at E, it specifically says notice to directors. Shouldn't that
So,
also be notice to general public as well? If they need to, if they're open to.
Can you scroll down, Mel?
no, because and here's why, because the directors need 10 days notice. We don't, I mean, I don't want to be in a position where we are agreeing to give the public 10 days notice of any meeting that we have. And I think that's what, so E applies to notices to directors. So we should all know of when a meeting is scheduled.
We should
And-
have our schedule.
Yeah, and I know that we put out, you know, not to say that we just, the only thing we have to do is just comply with the Sunshine Act, but there may be a circumstance where, you know, because we usually put out the notice with the agenda, right? Is that correct now? So
Yes.
we don't have the agenda necessarily completely done within 10 days.
That's
But-
right.
But we know that we have a meeting.
Right.
Yes,
Right, gotcha.
so that's why those two standards are different.
Right.
But moving forward, this might be a question, what is our standard now? How is the public notice of the notices of the meeting?
So we have our schedule, we've set our schedule for this year, which we have another meeting this month. Then we have one meeting in November and one meeting in December because in response to the holidays.
Yeah.
Those are publicly available. Right now, we ensure that the agenda is publicly noticed on the county's boards and commissions website and physically in this building. It is noticed in the building at least 24 hours before the meeting.
24 hours. Gotcha. The
So
agenda is the notice.
the agenda and goes out with the note. Yes, the
Right.
agenda is the notice.
Gotcha.
So if I may, the
Please do.
county's public meeting portal, iCompass, is what it's called, has all of the board's agendas here. And then when the board had taken actions, the things are reflected in the minutes as well, including when the board adopted that meeting schedule for the rest of the year. And then the meeting notice, I don't know if you just said this, they're also posted in the lobby of this building, as is required. And as the board meets more and more, people can subscribe to receive an email notification of the notices as well.
That's right. So right now, the county system is that when these are posted, folks who have subscribed to our agendas and our minutes get an email saying, here is the agenda for the upcoming board meeting.
Ms. Karen, you did a wonderful job.
Oh,
I love your recommendations and the explanation, so thank you.
You're welcome.
Is the 24-hour sufficient for public, for the agenda?
That is we are in line with the requirements of statute. Yes, oh, yes.
Except if there's an emergency. There is the law does permit if there's an emergency that you could have less than 24 hours notice. But that is to be avoided.
At all.
Not the meeting notification, but the agenda. That we're saying that the agenda is not available until 24 hours before the meeting. That's what I'm asking.
Right, that is in
Posting.
line with
Yeah,
the sunshine law.
Yes.
Or, I mean, we can't change that?
Now, we can change that as an internal policy.
Okay.
So this organization can say, if we wanted to, that the agenda has to be set 3 days or 5 days in advance of our meetings. I think that is a discussion and a question for us to consider about. There's frequently just administrative and logistical hurdles that happen there because but although you can amend your agenda. So the example that I deal with on a weekly basis is the St. Louis County Council. They publish their meetings are on Tuesdays, every Tuesday. They publish their agendas on Fridays. So you know their agendas by Friday afternoon. Then they publish their amended agenda on Monday afternoon.
At least
In
24 hours.
24 hours. So you can know the outline of their agenda, although their amended agenda always has add what they call add-ons. But to ensure that they're in line with statutory requirements, they always make sure that's posted in minimum 24 hours before their meeting.
That's fair. I would just like to suggest that it be on our list of things to do, that we have a discussion about what's beneficial for the
The
public.
public,
As we move down the line, we don't want 24 hours for people to look at our agenda and want to comment about whatever. we're gonna
important
talk
issues. I concur with that as stewards of the public trust, and that it is 24 hours is the minimum. It's not the necessarily the desired state.
Yeah, and of course, it would be when we have a secretary. No, I don't want to add anything else to Mel's plate.
And we appreciate that.
And I think those were the only changes I proposed since we last discussed.
I had read the comments. I know there was one question in there about term limits for members, but I know you all must have had a conversation that I don't believe I concur with, I don't remember whose comment it was. I don't believe statutorily we can bind our appointing authorities in any way about who those individuals appoint. Where we could, what I do believe we can do is if we wanted to put limits on any officers' positions. That is because that is a board decision that is not rooted in statute or ordinance. So that is something that we could explore.
Yeah, I agree that we could. I don't think we should do that right now.
I concur with,
I think we should.
I throw that out there just because I want to make sure that we know what levers are in front of us and what we can do. I would argue that, yes, that the board, let the wisdom of those 7 members decide who their leaders, who the leaders of the board are. So what I've heard from this discussion is a general consensus that Articles 8, 9, and 10 can be struck, and that we would like to get on to our calendar a meeting with the Center for Community Progress to walk us through some of their thoughts on these bylaws and get their perspective. Is that reflective of the board's conversation?
Yes.
Yes.
So what I will do is reach out to the Center for Community Progress. I don't believe that 2 weeks is going to be, I will ask whether at our November meeting, that is something that I'll just ask and hope that they can make that happen. And I will report back what I hear about and when we can get them on the agenda. Is that comfortable for board members?
Yes.
This will, you have my tasks in the minutes because I will need my tasks.
I got it.
Okay. Before we move on, is there any other discussion that the board would like to have about the bylaws? I feel like we have a path forward to moving to, hopefully, I'd love to have these. At this point, I think I'd love to have these adopted by our December meeting. So if not before, I'd love to have it done before the end of the year though. So if there's no further discussion and there's no additional actions that need to be had on that, we can move on to our discussion items for the good of the order. Some of these are information items that I want to bring to the board's attention. The first is that there was several months ago an application that was made by multiple entities to the Missouri Foundation for Health for a grant to help support standing up land banks in the state of Missouri. That includes with the city of Springfield, St. Louis County, the Center for Community Progress, and Legal Services of Eastern Missouri, all engaged in this grant process. It has come to our attention that the grant was awarded to the application, and that there are now going to be monies that are being sent to those 4 entities: the City of Springfield, St. Louis County Government, Legal Services of Eastern Missouri, and the Center for Community Progress. The county's portion is to fund an individual who will, from county government side, be helping to align issues here at county government as it pertains to acquiring and disposing of properties internally. So working with things like our Department of Revenue to make sure that we're ready when to move to a Chapter 141 system instead of a 140 system. Doing a lot of legwork and interfacing with us about what is it that this board is doing and what are the things that St. Louis County government needs to be aligning with what this board is doing. So that's one portion of it. The City of Springfield received their own fund because the City of Springfield, Missouri is standing up their own land bank. So they're doing their own. Legal Services of Eastern Missouri also received a portion of it to help fund their work to advise us to keep being invested in this process and ensuring that we are getting really good and robust outside thoughts. And the same for the Center for Community Progress. So the Center for Community Progress will be able to provide technical assistance to new land banks that are being stood up in the state of Missouri. So that will be, I think, a pretty open, there's some openness there. And I look forward to hopefully talking with the Center for Community Progress about as to what that could look like. So I don't have any more news on that. This was very recently awarded, and but I think it's great because it means that there are now going to be more resources to bear outside of this board that are holding us up and being champions with us on this work. So I wanted the board to be aware of that. Is there any questions, or are there any?
That provision for hiring someone, there was a discussion whether that would be someone in the planning department or out of the executive office, and I'm not sure that was ever decided. Dr. Page, I don't think, had decided whether he wanted that person to be on his staff, but there was, I believe, a couple $100,000 for a 2-year position.
That's correct. It is a 2-year position.
And I think they added whatever the percentage was for, benefits and so forth.
Yes, it fully funds that person salary fringe for a period of 2 years
So
to be aligning those internal. Yeah. So that'll be great.
That should be kind of immediate. That should not be subject to all kinds of meetings and job.
And the recipient of those monies is St. Louis County government. So the county will. The county will go through its hiring process because it will be a county staffer that will be working internally to be aligning the county's departments to be in preparation for the things that we're doing.
And the county hiring process is extremely slow and extremely difficult and bureaucratic, and it needs to get started right away because it's just not done. It just can't be done swiftly. I've learned that many years. So what would have to happen to get that kicked off, to get that started?
So the technical process is that once the official award letter, and this is for St. Louis County, once the official award letter is presented to St. Louis County, we do have to go to our county council and request the county council allow the county to accept the monies. That'll be done at a council meeting at some point very soon. Would be my expectation. And then subsequent to those monies being received, then the county could begin the hiring process.
And that would have to be posted for X number of, days or weeks or whatever. And it's going to be interesting. I mean, to see if, what kind of applications even would come in. It's such the whole concept is so new. So just need someone not so much familiar with land banks, is someone very organized and very efficient and very innovative, I suppose, would be some of the traits we'd be looking for the county should be looking for this position.
Right. And, we get to, in this case, we get to be the champion for and cheerlead the county in hiring this person. And they will be, my expectation is that once this person, that we will be seeing a lot of them at our meetings, they will be, sitting out, watching our proceedings, making sure that they're aware of what we're doing. But this is a case where the board we get to watch how the county, uses those monies. So I'm excited for that. I'm also excited for the technical assistance that the Center for Community Progress could provide to us. And I'm excited that the Legal Services of Eastern Missouri, who's been so instrumental in getting us to this point, also gets to continue their good work.
And are you prepared? I mean, is all that ready to go? Is all that ready to be on the?
To be honest, is that is those hiring decisions are, with the county. I know that they've been preparing, but beyond that, I don't have any news beyond that at this point.
When will you get the award letter or whatever you need?
I think very soon.
To go to the county council to get them to accept the reward and allow for that.
I think by the next meeting, I'll be able to, I think there will be more that will be more specific in hand to share.
And the only thought, one of the thoughts about putting that position in the executive office as opposed to in planning was that person would have to go to, work with so many different departments, including planning, but they would have to work with revenue and maybe the assessor's office and, other entities within the county.
Right. And I think that was all explained. Yeah, that was all in the grant application as to why that, all the teams that person will be working closely with.
Right. Okay. All right. So I just, again, just get things moving.
Yep. I just wanted to let the board know that there's people out there that are championing us, and there's resources coming to bear to keep this moving forward. The next thing, I just as an information, or is there any discussion? Is there any additional discussion? I don't want to truncate discussion on any item. Moving on, I have had discussions with our director of revenue, our acting director of revenue. And as I alluded to earlier, the county has begun to impose the 5% penalty on delinquent tax bills in St. Louis County. So as those monies are collected, they are being held in the treasury for us for when a bank account does become available. So what will end up happening is that we will start receiving monthly reports from the Department of Revenue to lay out where these monies are coming from and what those look like, how much it is, where they're, when they're going to be dispersed, all of that. So I just wanted everyone to know that is now being collected. I will be meeting with our acting director of revenue soon to flesh some of this more out. And I may invite our treasurer, Ms. Jordan, to be involved in that, because that will be a critical function of a treasurer to receive those reports and be able to explain such reports to the entire board. But they're started. So
we also need some sort of accounting.
Yes, and the county, in those regards, the county is very scrupulous in how it accounts for all of these things. So it's not just going to be a memo, here's your money. It will be an accounting of how these.
Will we need like QuickBooks?
Right this second, I don't think we're going to need it immediately, but that will be something that I think a conversation when we meet with Ms. Savage, Erica Savage, the acting director of revenue, to flesh and be prepared to answer some of those questions. So I just wanted to keep everyone apprised of that.
There have been wildly. Oh, excuse me.
Oh, well, Ms. Horn and then Mr. Shigag.
Okay, I was just saying that there was been some wildly enormous estimates of what that amount will be. Do we have any better idea of that just from the past couple of months or whatever since they've been collecting it? I mean, they were talking $12 to $24 million a year on that coming from that source, which to me just sounds very, very a lot. We have any better estimates of that or any later estimates?
Not at this point. I'm interested to see the first few reports. Of course, it's also the end of the year, so it will be, people pay their taxes in different chunks throughout the year. It's not evenly spread out. So I think it'll be starting to receive these reports and see how these are going from the Department of Revenue. We'll start to answer those questions. But at this point, there's been no new estimates that have been produced. But these are some of the things that I would like to sit down with Ms. Savage to discuss.
Okay.
And then report back to the board what Ms. Jordan and I hear when we discuss with Ms. Savage. Mr. Shagag, you wanted to add something.
Yeah, I think thinking of now and also thinking of in the future as well. I think as we're having these conversations, because we mentioned probably like 4 or 5 different partners, legal services, Center for Police and Equity, the Revenue Department, and the Treasurer as well. And I kind of think, and I don't mind helping with this, that as you all collect bullet points of what it is that their relationship with is with us and ours to these different partners, I think that I would love to help and establish engagement letters or engagement documents that clearly outlines these things that we just expressed that they'll be doing for us. So, and I'm only saying that because people can change, right? And we get new people in, we want to still have the same engagement expectations with all of these different partners. And I think this is perfect for us to start collecting that. And I don't mind helping to draft that stuff and put them in that shared document.
I think one what may be a benefit is actually to invite Ms. Savage to a meeting and to invite the county's treasurer to a meeting, because I don't believe we're going to need that, because the county the county has a standard sorts of ways that they account for these things and then get these. We disperse billions of dollars. So we have standardized ways that that St. Louis County does these things. And I think it would behoove us to maybe hear from the treasurer and the director of revenue to lay some of that out. This is the link, and this is the connection, and this is, let us tell you the accounting things we're going to be doing, the reports you're going to be receiving, how, so that you can rest assured that we're getting these things to you appropriately.
Yeah. So, and I totally agree. Totally agree. Somebody used the word before, codify.
Mm-hmm.
We want to codify what it is that they're expressing to us, right? Internally, right? Because we'll have new board members eventually, right? So to your point, yes, that's part of collecting those bullet points.
And I suggest that we start with meeting with, because they may be able to address some of those questions. Because I think they do, I know for a fact, because Ms. Savage was talking to me. She's like, these may be some of the things that we will ultimately, when you start accepting the money, we're gonna have to put this in the system, these kinds of things, but hear from them directly, what that's gonna be like.
Absolutely.
So.
Are these meetings or y'all thinking the work sessions?
Right now, I would say that, invite them to one of our meetings to give a report, or just to give us information.
Yeah.
If that works for the team. On the screen, any sorts of questions, or is that, you guys comfortable with that? I'll be inviting these folks to come and chat with us and tell us how this stuff works so that we have a good understanding.
Jacob, remind me the 5% penalties billed to the the resident every month, and then when they pay their bill, or is this an annual 5%? No matter when they're late.
No matter if you're 1 day late.
1 day late.
You get a 5% on your,
But they're
on your
not,
tax
it's
bill.
not added to their outstanding balance every month.
No, I don't know. It's the outstanding tax bill. So when you, like, say you don't pay it on January, whatever, then when you do come in, it's like, okay, your tax bill, your penalty, and then the new 5% penalty.
Okay, and that's it. Okay. I was thinking too, where is this $25 million coming from? And I'm like, well,
The county, you would be surprised that number comes as an estimate from our previous director of revenue, that when you simply take the sheer amount of money that we receive, taxation that comes in after they're due, and you just lop on an extra 5%, that's where it's a very back of the envelope. But it's surprising how much, how much the county takes in late taxes. So, but that is I think Ms. Savage can also clarify that to make sure that if you have any questions about how that 5% is tacked on to tax bill.
Ms. Savage is the treasurer.
She is the acting director of revenue. Is there any further discussion on that item? All right. Oh, Mr. Glantz.
I think it segues into the future guest speaker thing.
Yes, it does.
We're gonna be interacting with so many different individuals and so many different organizations. I think it's imperative that on upcoming agendas that we invite or have people that we're interacting with or that can give us guidance, education, et cetera. I think it's critical that we have a spot on our agenda each meeting for guest speakers.
Mhm. Understood, and I concur. I concur, which is so segging into that.
Yeah.
So we're already building up a little bit of a, we want to invite the Center for Community Progress. We'd like to invite the treasurer and the director of revenue to different meetings to walk us through some of these things. Is there anyone else right off the bat to start building a list of folks to invite to get slotted in? Because they've got their own professional lives in getting slotted in to chat with us. Or do we want to keep this more sort of free flowing, that as we keep going, we are wanting to add new people in?
Well, I will tell you that I have a relationship with a title company who's very interested in the work that the land bank is doing, and would love to interact or come in and talk, because they have slightly different opinions than we've also heard, and so discerning the truth or reality from fiction is sometimes hard, but so I have some people from a title company that would love to talk to the land bank.
Yeah, it's interesting that we're assuming that 141 is going to clear titles and some of these I think that's a good idea to hear what the title companies are saying relative to that, the judicial process for clearing titles once they
Right.
go into the land bank. So if you can't get title insurance, you're not gonna move forward. So I agree, Barry, with you on that.
I am happy to include that, and I'd like for anyone who comes to talk to us, that it's educational, not coming to try to sell us on a service, not coming to,
Exactly.
that this is educational. And I also, there's going to be, there's going to be people who have opposing opinions about, that's just the nature, that's the adversarial nature of a lot of these things. So hearing another perspective is important, but I'm going to, I want to hear their perspective on it, and for us to discern and talk to a lot of experts to make sure that we feel good about whatever direction we end up going.
I would like to suggest that we have a calendar of guest speakers. So as we not wait until we need to talk to someone, but actually get what's on the calendar now.
Yeah.
Through 26. I think of someone from the city's land bank.
I concur with that. I'd love to have somebody from the city come.
Yeah, legal services, of course, because there is this conversation right around, the fact that we're back in the Supreme Court regarding MSD and all those things, and how that's going to impact what's going on in the city, which will impact us at some point too. So
Right.
If we can get a list of either existing partners to Farrakhan's point, a list of existing partners and a list of people that maybe we should be bringing into the conversation. And that could also be, I connected with I think it was Detroit Land Bank Executive Director, just to hear.
Yeah, their experience, because they've got a big one.
Too, right? So we can just start getting them on the calendar so we know who we're going to actually hear from that day, versus we're trying to scramble to get someone on the calendar.
I concur with that. What I would like, so I've already got, someone from a title company, the city's land bank, the Detroit land bank, if we can. I feel like those may be a January, like a post-holiday between now and the end of the year, if we can get somebody to the bylaws from, so thank you for community progress. Our treasurer and our director of revenue, that closes out 2025. That moves us into 2026 with some of these other opportunities. So then I would encourage perhaps that if there are folks that any of us think would be a plausible or a good candidate to come and chat with us, that we surface those, we can get those to Mel, and then we can just start creating a list of who to invite and when to get those people on the agendas.
And
But what I will do is work to get at least the 2025 ones done, and then we put out some feelers for these other ones, say, hey, starting in January, can you come to one of our meetings? Our meetings are on Thursday mornings, every other Thursday, and start getting those laid out too.
I agree 100%. I didn't mean to cut you off, Jacob, but I think there need to be some parameters in that. It needs to be, as you said, it needs to be educational, not solicitous.
That's right.
It's
30 minutes or less of presentation.
I was
20?
going to say, I think we need to put a time limit.
Yes, 20.
I was going to say 30 minutes may be a little excessive.
Well, unless we're talking about the Detroit Land Bank or LRA or the city's land bank, I mean, they're a partner.
There may be some dialogue, but don't present to us more than 20 minutes.
Yeah, I was going to say that we could allow 15 to 20 minutes, and at the discretion of the board, we can extend
For a conversation.
for conversation. But I think that should be I hate to use the word permanent, but I think that should be part of our agenda every meeting, at least moving forward.
I think we're building a list of folks that I think that's gonna be quite possible. So.
Are any of the other new land banks in the state further along in this process?
I don't know how far. I believe that at public comment, if anyone knows it from public comment, would you address that? But I don't believe Springfield is as far along, but that would be a good, like, hey, if they are starting to get started, it's like, hey, we're in this together. What are we learning as we're doing this together? So.
Kansas City's had one for quite a while.
Yeah.
And theirs is certainly more successful than the St. Louis City one, because the city of St. Louis is just bogged down with just all the properties that have been dumped into their land bank because they did not have the ability to say no. So there's not a whole lot they're able to do for a whole lot of reasons. But Kansas City is a little later than that, but Springfield's just getting started like we are.
Is there any additional conversation on that? So keeping these educational, no more than 20-minute presentation and then the board at the board's discretion, conversation. The remainder of this year, working more on very technical, just information about revenue, treasurer, bylaws, but then in 2026, moving into bigger conversations with some of our peers that can hopefully show us help us follow some breadcrumbs to success. Excellent. I put this on here too, future meeting logistics. We've had a little bit of, we've been bouncing around a little bit. I think that's just going to be the nature of the board for a little while. I know that in my absence, met at 10:50. The board also met at. We've met at 10:50. We were going to meet at the Board of Elections, but they don't have quite a setup. So one, I can't remember whether it was you, Vice Chair Dancy, or whether it was you, Ms. Jordan, about about perhaps a library.
Yeah.
Whether we could meet in one of their rooms at the library branch on Lindbergh. They have all of the video conferencing that we would possibly need, although Ms. Wilson, we'd have to look at that, wouldn't we? Because we've been using and by our, I mean the county.
Computers we log it right into.
Oh, we could just, thank you.
Well, I don't remember if I don't know if I've done that.
Let's explore,
Yeah, we can
let's
certainly
explore,
do
if that's okay, we will explore the library on Lindbergh. It's more centrally it's a little bit more centrally located. It has a surface parking lot, so it's easy in and out. It's mid-county. Is that reasonable? And if that doesn't work, then we'll come back here and we'll discuss it again.
Yeah, I just want to go on the record to say that the technology component, I think is handicapping our ability to be more accessible, believe it or not. I think we miss out on a lot of great in-person locations simply because of the IT incapacity. I just want to go on the record to say that.
I appreciate it. But this doesn't need a vote of the board, but if everyone's comfortable, we'll take a look at county library and see if that is a reasonable, that can be reasonably accommodate us, and we'll move forward from there. We'll keep looking to get that rolling.
Would that be every county library? Or are you saying just specifically the one on Lindbergh?
Well, right now I would look at the one on Lindbergh, and that's, I know that the county library system, many of the branches have these types of meeting rooms. Right now I was just going to look at the one on Lindbergh.
Could you be interested in other libraries, possibly?
Not opposed.
Okay.
So.
Okay. I'll just get some, just FYI.
And, one thing too, and this is just, I'm thinking about this as our business meetings, where our business meetings occur. I do think there is a future in which we will want to be having engagement meetings, especially early on as we create our strategic plan, that those kinds of meetings will, from my experience as a planner, need to be out in the community.
That's what I'm getting at. Okay.
Having openness for folks. I'm thinking about this as primarily driven by our business meeting needs.
Gotcha. Okay. That's good.
So one of the things that has bubbled up, and I 100% support it, is to consider having a working retreat. So having either a full day in which perhaps we bring in an outside, like we bring in someone from the outside, or just how that would be organized, don't know yet. But I think it's a good idea for us to be shooting towards having a working retreat. I personally don't think we should do it in 25. It's and I'm not shooting for like a January, but I'm wondering whether a springtime board retreat would be something reasonable for us to start shooting towards, that we can all plan for, that can also be a really can help drive. I think we can start answering and really diving into the questions I really want to be addressing, which is how do we start what's our strategic plan? How do we really start improving our communities? So I lay that out there. I don't have a date in mind. I don't have a location in mind. I don't even yet have a format in mind. I'm wondering whether there's anybody for whom this is a pet project that they are interested in and that they would like to start putting some thoughts into to bring back to the board for us to start making some decisions on that. Is this something that's that someone would really like to take on?
Planning the retreat?
Yes, starting, and when I say planning, we're not yet like logistics, it's like, what do we want to be covering? What would it look like? Who, thinking about an organization like ours, what's the right thing for us to be deciding and sort of working on.
My first thought was to just ask the board, does anybody know of an organization that already does kind of like board development that can maybe do it for us pro bono, since we don't have funds yet, but some partner that we can partner with that can then do that on our behalf, because then they would be able to ask us strategic questions and help us to build that. And matter of fact, I think we did it with St. Louis Realtors. I can find out from them who we used, but somebody familiar with this subject too, I would suggest.
I think that's great. And one thing I want to note is that I believe specifically the Missouri Foundation for Health grant that was given to the Center for Community Progress, they can even be a part of their technical advice. They can be a part of a retreat as well. But I concur with that having an outside organization that can help us lead it rather than us coming up with it ourselves. I'm really interested in some outside thoughts on it.
So is that the organization? I don't mind reaching out, like if somebody knows
Please,
who I can reach out to, or I don't know if Jacob, you would do that as the chair.
I'll reach out to the Center for Community Progress. That's one of the things when I talk to them about I want to talk to them about several things and then report back to this board. But if you have a connection with somebody else that you just know, just to see if there's something that you want to propose, I think that's great, and then let us know. Otherwise, my first step will be to reach out to the Center for Community Progress and see what they have available.
Okay, that sounds good to me. I'll wait to hear back from what you say, because I think who we use for board development for St. Louis Realtors, it was real estate specific.
Okay.
So I'll wait to hear back from you.
No, that sounds great.
Okay.
And I know there's no real decision making on this. I just want to make sure that we're aware that is what we want to be doing. We want to be, and that we as a board are going to be open and ready to making the time to do this together. Okay. That's I think planting that flag in the sand is about as far as we can get on that today.
I'd keep it on the
Yes.
agenda. Yeah,
Right.
I'd keep it on the agenda.
And then for discussion items, was there anything that was missed today that somebody really wanted to bring up? If not, we will move on to our next item, which is public comment. But before we move to public comment, I want to ensure that any other issues have been addressed.
Did anybody have any questions on the SS4 form?
I thought it was great. Thank you so much for taking the initiative to do that.
Yes. Really appreciate it.
Jacob, we can talk about logistically just getting that process.
Okay. Understood. That's great. Is there anything else for this board? Seeing none, I would like to.
I have one thing to share.
Go ahead, temporary
Go
officer.
back. I pulled up the library's like meeting scheduler. And there's only one library branch that has availability at this meeting time, and it's the Thornhill branch, which is in like the Creve Coeur area.
Okay.
But the
It's
rest
still mid-county.
yeah, but that's the only one that has the right time.
Okay.
Is that on Woodson?
Fifi.
It's past.
It's right by what school
Realtors
is this?
Association.
It's by Parkway North.
Yes, where BJC is, I think.
Okay.
We can take a look, because I've not been to that branch. We can take a look at it physically,
Yeah.
see if it's a good space. If it is, we can do that. Otherwise, we may want to start booking these things more than 2 weeks in advance.
Yeah.
So, but we'll take a look at that. Are there any other items of interest for the board? Seeing none, I'd like to move on to our next item on the agenda, which is for the acceptance of public comment. Are there any members who would like to make comments to the board today? Please stand up, or you can come up to the table if you'd like. You can sit right there. But please, your name and your zip code for the record.
Jasmine Cannon, 63138. So I don't want to overwhelm you all with public speaker recommendations. However, I'm just going to spit them all out. The first one, these are also more programmatic, less about the operation of the board, but more so the programs for the land bank. I've listed police departments and municipalities as well as those neighborhood leaders. I think that will give you all the grounds that you need to be both insightful and informative within this process. And then also just various partners who are operating in not just real estate development, but also the maintenance of real estate. Two of them popped in my head, Shed STL would be city, and then also Equity Network. I think they have really great maintenance programs that can get you all thinking outside of just acquiring these parcels, but also the maintenance within the process before they're being sold off into the various individuals. And then lastly, think of the land bank not just as a land bank, but also as a business. So what does the business plan look like? And then also what is the actual strategy itself within that business plan that can give you guys a really great foundation moving forward for some longevity, as opposed to similar to the city of St. Louis, just acquiring, not being able to disposition of those. Wanted to make sure I pointed that out.
I appreciate your comments. If you would feel comfortable, can you also submit that list to Ms. Mel Wilson, who is our temporary administrative officer, so that we can have that on record, and then we can, it also just makes it easier for us to make sure that we didn't miss a suggestion. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Is there any additional public comment? Please, your name and your zip code.
Rachel Waterman, 63118, Legal Services of Eastern Missouri. I wanted to provide a couple updates on things that might be relevant to the board. Things that we usually talk about at our biweekly Friday Land Bank Coalition meetings. First, as you know, the county is going to have to run a 141 judicial foreclosure process in order to get you guys properties. We're still waiting to hear on whether a county counselor is going to obtain the services necessary themselves through their own shortcut, not RFP process, or whether county revenue is going to have to put those services out for an RFP. But the coalition is kind of working on making sure that happens so that there will be a pathway for properties to come to you. I missed a lot of this meeting because I had to run next door to court, but Center for Community Progress, I know I sent Mel Sarah's contact. Sarah drafted the bylaws, and then Janelle is the point person for anything you guys need, Janelle O'Keefe, to make sure you have all their contact info. And then I just wanted to note that I am probably one of the only people right now who is funded to do land bank related work as part of my 9 to 5. So you can bother me if you want research memos or things about collateralization of your funds or any other kind of like red tape research questions. I can do that. The Port Authority has given Legal Services a grant, and that is to support county efforts related to vacant property. This is one of those. You feel free to reach out. I'm happy to produce things for the board to review at meetings. Seems like you all are the people, so.
The GOAT.
Really appreciate it. Thank you so much, Mr. Hartman. Any additional, and we're really excited. I don't know whether you were in here. I also let the board know about the Missouri Foundation for Health funding that will be coming through. So that is also great outside support.
Yeah, so I will continue to be funded. Port Authority funds what I do now. MFH will continue to fund our work, Center for Community Progress County.
And may I interact with you? Is there a time limit on how long these funds that you will be able to support and that these funds fund you?
We will have partial staff support. It's not like my full-time job. I do a lot of other things. But for 3 years, there will be partial funding for staff in our office. Same for Center for Community Progress. And then the direct funding to the county government and to the city of Springfield is 2 years of direct funding.
Thank you so much. Yes, please.
Claude Chartreuse, 63119. Again, we talked briefly about this offline, but want to offer St. Louis Economic Development Partnership a conversation with our administrative staff in accounting and in legal. We manage other boards that have similar jurisdictions and bank accounts with similar jurisdictions, and could provide support, templates, a checklist of what you need to get going. Also a note that Google Suite is blocked by county IT currently, so that could be a bit of a challenge. And then finally, hearing the comment about term limits for board members, personally would recommend against that. I do not personally consider that good governance, speaking as a county resident in my personal capacity. It can destabilize governance of the board. It can be a detriment to people who are developing expertise and then kicking them off. You have other means to kick off ineffective board members, and it would be an arbitrary way to get rid of good, effective board members.
I appreciate your comments. Thank you.
Kevin, excuse me. Congratulations on the grant award from MFH. And then I'll mention, since the conversation about other land banks around the state came up, that Springfield, there was recently an article in the Springfield newsletter, an expansive article, by the way, that talks about Springfield setting their land bank up. However, they are in the infancy, to use that metaphor. And Springfield's land bank won't be like St. Louis County's land bank. In that St. Louis County, although y'all aren't alone, y'all are unique in that we are the only, and will be the only countywide land bank in the state, by way of statute. I also mentioned that, yeah, I'll keep it there.
All right. Well, I really appreciate, I really appreciate the public being here supporting us and keeping us accountable, and also the perspectives that you brought to the board today. Thank you. Well, that brings us to the conclusion of our meeting. So I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those who are in favor, please say aye. Aye. Are there any who are opposed to adjournment? The ayes have it. We are adjourned at 11:04. Thank you. Bye, everybody.
Bye.